All right, good evening. Ooh, that's loud. Welcome to the September 13th Board of Education meeting. It is 6:02 and I'm officially calling the meeting to order. Before we begin, we have an item to be added to the consent agenda, so I am making a motion to add item D, overnight field trip request, BHS upbeat for October 16th to 17th, 2021, Camp Woodstock, to be added to the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, 6-0. And then the other thing, since we have students here this evening and families, I would like to move the audience of citizens above the committee report. So we'll have student presentations, then audience of citizen. So that way, while any of the wonderful families here this evening would like to stay or address the board, they don't have to sit through all of the committee reports, and then they can go home, or families can go home after student presentations. We don't need a motion for that. So I am really excited to have some of our Griswold students here this evening. Last Tuesday, I did not have school, so I spent my day checking out Griswold and McGee, seeing all the positive, wonderful things that are happening in our schools, seeing our students, and just seeing, how great school is going. I was really going to see all the positives and just watching, the teachers work their magic. And in this 5th grade class, I was so impressed, and I'm so excited that they are here this evening. So we are going to turn this over to Miss BOE, and she is going to walk us through math number talk. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm so sorry. I was just so excited that we have our students here this evening. So let's stand up and do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Now we'll turn it over to our 5th graders. Thanks, guys.
All right, good evening, everybody. Members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Benigni, thank you for this opportunity to showcase some of the wonderful things happening at Griswold School. I'm going to say very little and pass it off to Miss Bodette, who's going to talk to you about number talks.
Hi, everybody. We are so excited to be here and share number talks with you. I am very blessed this year to have an amazing class with all these volunteers that we're so excited to come and share. So I will turn it over to them.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. We are so excited to share how we do number talks in 5th grade. A number talk is one of the warm-up routines we do before starting math. Number talks are mental math exercises that start with an easy problem and get slowly harder. We learn how to think quickly and flexibly.
Number talks allow us to share different strategies, actively listen, and to support peers, and to take risks in a safe environment. An important part of number talks is to explore and correct answers. But don't worry, we love making mistakes because that's when we learn the most.
During number talks, we use hand signals to communicate with each other. If we have an answer, we put our thumbs up close to our chest so others don't feel rushed.
We add more fingers if we have more strategies. If we agree what someone has said, we use a hand signal. We invite the board members to try out a number talk with us. Let's get started.
Jake, what have you got?
I know that 6 times 4 equals 24, and then if you just add on a 0 of 24, that gets you 240.
Anybody agree with that answer? Yeah. Anybody else, a different answer, a different strategy? Paul? Yeah, you can come up.
So what I did was I took 40, and then I did it 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
which equals 120.
Yep.
Then if you add 120 twice, that equals 240.
Yep. So you did 3 groups of 40 2 times?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else, different strategy? Kara? Sure.
So what I did is I sort of did 6 times 40, and I multiplied 6 times 4, and I knew that that got me 24.
Mm-hmm.
And then I imagined that this 0 was gone, but then I re-added it, and then I added it on right here, and I got 204.
Nice. All right, so the second one, now that we know 6 times 40 is 240, let's think about 10 times 40. Thumbs up when you have an answer or a strategy. Julie, do you want to share?
Well, I'm gonna have to do the most obvious. You want me to write it down?
Sure.
Okay. So if we do 10 times 4, we know that equals 40. And then we have the extra 0 because it was a 4, not a 40, and then it's 400.
Yep. Awesome. I see some people agreeing with you. Amelia, what have you got?
So, I did 10 times 4, like this, and I know that 0 times 4 is 0, and then 1 times, like, 0, and then 0, I kind of do it differently, like 0 times 1, but then there's another 0, and then 1 times 4 is bracket.
Oh, okay, so you got 400 for this one. Awesome. So you know the US algorithm.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. Any other strategies? Yeah, Kara.
So I knew that 10 times 4 is 40, and then I took the, and then I popped on the other 0 from the 4, and I got 4.
Yeah, nice. Does anybody know what it's called when we sort of add that extra 0 on at the end? Paul?
I don't know what it's called, but I know what it means.
Oh, what does it mean?
So when you have like 40, and then you make it into 4, and then you make it a 40.
Mm-hmm.
Like 10 times 4 is 40, and then you add a 0 from the other like 40.
Yeah, so you said it was 10 times, right? Every time we put a 0 on the end, it's getting 10 times bigger? Yeah. All right, here's the next one. The 2 answers we already got. Now it's 16 times 40. Thumbs up when you haven't answered. Would you like to share? Sorry, I don't know your name.
I'm Tim.
Tim, would you like to share?
I look at that as 16 times 4, which I know gets me to 64. And then I've got the 10 times 0 left from the 40 to put on the end to get the 640.
Okay, anybody agree? Yeah, lots of agreeing with that. Any other strategies? Amelia.
So, I like imagine that the 6 isn't there, and the 0 isn't there,
Okay.
so 1 times 4.
Okay.
But, so that equals 4. But, I did it kind of differently, so that's my middle answer.
Okay.
And then I got the 0 from the 40, because that's 10. And then 6 times 1, because
that always works with any number combination. You agreed?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
For this one,
Yeah. All right, let's go to the last one. So 16 times 39. So if I had showed that first, it would be really hard to multiply, right? But now that we did all these steps, we might be able to get it really quick. So thumbs up when you know. Kara. Yeah?
so for this one, I kind of did something that I learned in 4th grade. I did it like the area model way, so I did 30 plus 9, I drew it down. 10 plus 6 is 16. And then I did 10 times 30. Well, I know that 10 times 3 is 30, pop on the 0, that would be 300. And then 10 times 4, and then 10 times 9, so that would be 90. And then 6 times 3, that would be 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would pop on the 0. And then I would do 6 times 9, which is 54.
Mm-hmm.
So 300 plus 180 plus 90 plus 54 would get me.
Got a lot of friends agreeing with you.
And I got 624.
624, okay. Did anybody use 16 times 40 to get 16 times 39? Amelia, what'd you do?
So, since I know that 40 is just kind of like 1 away from 39, then I kind of subtracted the 4, but like in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So I subtracted the 4 by 2, kind of,
Okay.
for some reason. I don't know why. And then I kind of added it because I didn't really do anything with the 4.
Okay.
So I just added the 4 to the bottom.
Okay.
And then I just didn't do anything with the 6.
Okay. And you got, oh, so you're saying you left the 6.
Yeah.
I gotcha. 624?
Yeah.
Okay. We were talking about, I think it was Jackson in our class that came up with this. Since 39 is 1 away from 40 and it's groups of, we know we would take away a whole group of 16 and not just 1, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's how we do number talks. It starts with an easy problem, it gets a little more difficult, so they're able to do difficult problems as mental math. So, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for sharing that with us and having us participate. Because I will say, when I was in your class last Tuesday, I so bad wanted to participate and jump in and agree and disagree and go up and share my thoughts. So that was awesome. And what I also love is that with these math problems, there's so many ways to get to one answer, and then we're able to share them and agree and disagree and help one another out. And I really saw that highlighted in your class. So there's like collaboration, teamwork, and you're all learning from one another. So thank you so much. So I'm going to turn it over to the board members if you guys want to add anything, ask them anything.
I just want to say nice job. I applaud you. It's a lot different from when I went to school, and I'm glad everybody's learning well, and congratulations on this project.
I, for one, was so excited to see this on the agenda, that we had students' presentations finally again. This was always absolutely hands down my favorite part of all of our Board of Ed meetings, when we could go to the schools or we could have the students present, you know, art or math or something they're doing. And I applaud you for getting up in front of everyone and doing this. It's not easy. And thank you so much for sharing this. It was awesome.
Thank
more comment. When I walked up there, I asked you, are we all part of the same team? And you all kind of nodded. And I really appreciate how much you do work as a team. So you get to listen to each other's differences in the thoughts that you have, learn something new from a friend, and maybe teach a friend in the process. That's really cool. So great work.
Actually, I'll add one other thing. It was the 16 by 40 math was kind of interesting. I'm thinking about it now as to why did I go that route. I work in IT with computers, and our number of basis is usually 1,024 instead of 1,000. And when you distill that number all the way down, it goes down to 512, 256, 128, 64, 32, 16, 8421. So those numbers have been in my life for decades now that I've been an IT professional, and it's one of those things that you look back and say, I probably could have learned that in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade and started to do that, putting it together. So you will use math when you're adults, believe it or not.
Yes. Steve or Lindsay, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would just like to say it was great to see so many different methods and ways that each of you came up with the correct answers, and that's important because you have to, be able to accomplish a task to you in a way that makes sense. And so I applaud you for that, and I liked how you supported each other as well with helping each other, and each person had a different approach to how they would come up with the answer, and all that really matters in the end is you establish repeatability, which you demonstrated you did, and you got the correct answer. So kudos to you, great job.
I think you guys should come to the high school and teach us how to do some calculus number talks. I think that would really help us out.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I know you have to be really brave to get up here and stand up here, but it is live streamed, so you can send it to your grandparents and aunts and uncles. It's on the BHS TV YouTube page. I know. You're all YouTube famous, but I also want to thank you, Ms. Baudet, for pulling this all together and getting all your students out. And thank you to the parents for taking time out of your busy Monday to come on out because, again, this is the best part of our board meetings, and we really want to focus on the kids. So thank you. So thank you. So the next part of our meeting is audience of citizens. If the parents would like to leave, you can. If you would like to stay for this part, by all means. It's totally up to you, but is there, I think I only saw one person sign up. If you want to speak, you can go ahead and go on up to the microphone. Just make sure you state your name and your address. And we have 2 minutes per person. Do we have the timer, or do you want me to use my timer? Okay, cool.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse. I'm from 72 Worthington Point and here in Berlin. I just wanted to say, when I start off, thank you for the open houses. They were really good. My wife and I enjoyed McGee and Willard. We really had a chance to reintroduce ourselves to the teachers, so it was a good job. But the reason I'm speaking is because last time I was here for the meeting for the subcommittee, and there was a few things that were said, and that was that our education system is diverse, which I don't necessarily agree with, and our numbers for our town don't represent as well. We are a diverse group of learners, as we just witnessed today, and hearing all those individual voices and how they learn really helped everybody grasp math. So that's why when I hear things like that, it kind of makes me question on where we're getting our information and how we present it so that we're aware of what we're dealing with. Here in Berlin, we're like more than 90% white, which leaves 10% for any other way to identify. So we need to work to make sure that we're hearing those other voices out there. Thank you. And so, I don't know. And I remember you were speaking about your friend. He said he got upset when he heard the word equal or equality and equity. Yeah, and that's, to me, it shows that we need to have that more information because again, the children was a perfect display of what equity is. They each got to approach the problem in their way and explain it and how they view their ideas. It was the same problem, but they all addressed it differently. And then one more thing I'd like to bring out is that if we overlook the voices of the marginalized, we're going to miss a lot. Right now, everything's heavy with what's going on in Afghanistan, and we forget that we have a population of Islam here. So, time's up.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Just as you come up, just state your name and address.
Rachel Rochette, 61 Ellsworth Boulevard. And I hadn't been planning on speaking, but the gentleman that just spoke led me to want to say something about diversity within our town, our students, and more importantly, our staff. And our teachers are phenomenal, and they support our children 100%. But I would encourage the board and the hiring departments, when you are going out and recruiting, that you are recruiting in areas with diversity. It would be so impactful for our children to be taught by people who aren't the same as them. And my children went through Berlin school system and never had a non-white teacher until high school, and maybe one. So I think it's important when you're looking at hiring that you consider diversity as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board this evening? All right, so thank you, everyone, and we will move on to committee reports. Lindsay, do you have a report for us?
School just started, obviously, and many of our clubs are back up and running. So Upbeat and Interact are the two most popular ones that we know, and they have many volunteer opportunities compared to last year where there wasn't a lot of in-person activity. All of our fall sports are also off to a smooth start. The soccer teams are playing right now, and they just had their first games last week. Same as girls volleyball. Last week was their first game. And cross country and football, many of you were there. I saw you at their first game, and we had a great showing of our Red Sea back with some school spirit. And boys golf was moved to the fall sports season, and they had their first meet last week also. The Berlin Fair, a much-awaited day in Berlin, is back, which is this coming Friday, so everyone will have the day off and get to enjoy the fair. For the incoming freshmen, we had a orientation, so all of the students were able to come in and meet some upperclassmen volunteers, ask questions, and take a tour of the school with their schedules. And we also held a welcome night where they get to walk through an activities fair, and the principals and administrators got to speak. And then finally, Sam and I just wanted to mention that there seems to be just an overall positive vibe throughout the school, and everyone's really excited to be back, and especially the seniors. If we have to wear masks to be together, we're going to do that just so that we can have some of our normal traditions.
Great, thank you so much, Lindsay. And congratulations to Berlin High football team for their victory on Friday night. And I saw some of the game, and I know the marching band also sounded phenomenal, and cheerleaders were out there, and you know, we're moving to a place where we can have, it was the first football game in almost 2 years, right? Year, okay. Because last year there was 7 on 7, right? Right. Right, but it really, yeah, so, but it's, all right, any other committee reports? Have any committees met since the last meeting? Okay, so CREC report?
We meet Thursday for the first time, so I don't have anything till then.
And correspondence to the board?
Yes, I have one correspondence to the board. To members of the Board of Education, thank you for the engraved pen holder commemorating 25 years of service in Berlin. This serves as a reminder of how proud I am of the work for the district. Your thoughtfulness and generosity are much appreciated. That's Megan Royce.
All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for consideration?
Julie, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Tim, second by Mark. Any discussion around the consent agenda? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the vote is 6-0. Moving on to new business, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Cugno to provide a report.
Good evening, folks. Since we just met, about 3 weeks ago, I thought what I would do is, rather than just rattle off, the same projects and tell you that they've moved a little bit in 3 weeks, they all have, but I thought I'd give you some goals and objectives and some other things coming up, not only for the business office and facilities, but also the budget. So a few notes, so bear with me, please. On August 23rd, I reviewed most of the currently planned ongoing projects sponsored by the Board of Ed. The list was lengthy. The dollar volumes are considerable. We're doing many of these projects in concert with the Town Facilities Department, as well as independent architects and engineers and contractors. Just this week, we actually, just today, very frankly, we just contracted for the design for 2 of our projects, one at Griswold and one at Hubbard, so we're trying to move things together in a process. Given that we are working in the education business and in the public sector, we have some built-in schedule and budget constraints. The efficient period for any fiscal year for construction is the summer. We all know that. Basically 2 months of partially unoccupied space annually. That's all we get to really do relatively sizable projects. Therefore, it's imperative that we investigate and plan our projects, big and small, very well. I've had the opportunity to be directly involved with planning and funding government projects for more than 25 years. The one fact that constantly comes to the forefront and proves to be the most important is that good planning, investigation, and cost estimating, all grouped together as in the field of what they call pre-construction activities, are ultimately the necessary components for success. Risking through conception, design, and funding is a sure way to ruin a project. Excuse me, that was rushing. Rushing through conception, designing, and funding is a sure way to ruin a project and embarrass its supporters. One of our constant goals in the business office is to use this information to our advantage and to focus on planning and strategic scheduling. The procurement process, as some of the things we're taking up tonight, or the board are taking up tonight, has been refined, further regulated in recent years in the public sector. The standards for approval continue to rise along with the cost. Therefore, our focus must be on efficiency and cost-benefit analysis, as well as short and long-term maintenance. For this budget season, which starts in a month or so, for FY 2023, our planning for the town's capital plan project starts now. I know you all understand that the capital plan is the place that we get our large projects funded through the town, as we did in last year's 2% account. The town manager has requested the board's submissions by October 15th. Therefore, representatives of the business office will be touring each facility with the principal, the head custodian, and the town facility department within the next few weeks to develop and redevelop our priority list for upcoming projects. The key objective is to be realistic in our requests, given anticipated budget constraints, but not to lose sight of the fact that our job is to preserve and maintain our schools in a manner to serve our students. Doing things the right way and investing in the right infrastructure will save us money in the long run. Berlin's public schools are not going out of business, and the demands from parents and students for continuing updating facilities, technology, and courses of study will grow. The efforts are important, gratifying, and actually the most fun part of the job. The superintendent has naturally directed us all to be aggressive in our review and our investigation, and to recommend a package worthy of all consideration and be beneficial for our student population. We hope to be reporting back to the board shortly with our requests and the level of success we've had in procuring support and funding for the following year. Questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cugno on his report? All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your very well-prepared report. So now we're going to move into summer program update, and we're going to be covering special education, general education, summer curriculum work update, and the Central Connecticut Transition Academy. So I'm going to first turn it over to Linda Holian to start out with special education.
Good evening. First, I want to start off by thanking Michelle and Cindy, and then Joanne and Sue. They're the ones that really put this program together so that the kids could have a successful ESY program. So the summer school program for students with special education is called ESY, or Extended School Year Services. Not every student who participates in special ed through an IEP receives special education services. This is really made as a recommendation per child based on the needs. I know you've heard this in the past. Our summer school program has kind of stayed consistent through the years. So we run 2 summer school programs. We have a 5-week program for our students in our BLAST program. So we have students in preschool, elementary, and McGee. So they meet Monday through Friday for 5 weeks for 4 hours per day. And then we have our 4-week program that meets Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays for 3 hours a day. We had 132 students actually participate in our summer school program this year. We also had an additional 39 students who were recommended, but the families chose not to have their children participate in the program. One unique program that we were able to offer this year as well, it wasn't part of ESY, but the Department of Education gave every district in the state a special education stipend to be used with students that missed out on experiences due to the pandemic. So we really looked at our students that are in our BLAST programs that typically throughout the school year would have an opportunity to go into the community, whether that be field trips. 2 years ago, we were able to get some of the students into the Y pool for that experience. So we put a proposal together to allow our students to participate in a camp funded through the YMCA. So we had, we had 19 students who participated in that program, and we had 15 paraprofessionals that helped assist them so they could have this typical camp experience that they wouldn't be able to do without that adult support. They went to camp for 2 weeks after ESY was out, and they were able to stay until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They just had a blast. So that's our ESY program. I don't know if anyone has any questions for us.
I don't have any questions. Do you guys have any questions? No, sounds like it went really well, though. Thank you for your report. All right, Dr. McGurk, general education.
Good evening. So I would say, in contrast to the ESY program, there was a lot of new, different programming that happened this year for summer programs. As Linda did, I'd like to thank Lori Jerpin and Cara Watson for their organization and coordination of the Summer Academy program, and Tyler Boyle, the Fine Arts co-coordinator, and Ross Hansen, who's the department supervisor in math, for helping us to expand our programming. Based on our needs assessment and the grant funding eligibility criteria, we used ESSER funds to support some of the summer learning programs that were designed to target kids who we identified as in need of additional support, or we are also allowed to spend summer funding to expand arts access for students. So we had 3 primary areas that we worked on. One was focused on students in the early elementary grades, entering grades 1, 2, and 3. Teachers identified 90 students that they thought would benefit from that program, and we ended up having approximately 75 students participate. The program consisted of classes that met Monday to Thursday for 3.5 hours a day from 8:30 to noon. And the students got support in literacy and mathematics, and also had an opportunity to participate in a creative movement, artsy kind of other slot of time. Excuse me. In addition to that, through coordination with the YMCA, we were able to offer a camp program as an add-on to the Summer Academy program, and that meant for those families, they were able to have their students in a summer program from 8:30 in the morning through the end of the day at 4 o'clock. and also to come on Fridays to be able to participate in that. Through this program, we also provided additional support for our English learner students. In the past, our English learners had gotten tutoring with an adult meeting at the library, and we used the ESSER funding to provide the opportunity for them to participate in the summer academy and stay for summer camp if they wanted to do that. So that provided a total of up to 5 weeks of programming for those students. We ran 2 different programs at the middle school and high school to support mathematics. Excuse me. For the high school students entering as freshmen, 8th grade teachers identified students that they recommended participation in the program, and we conducted this face-to-face at the high school. So the 8th graders coming out of McGee came to the high school for the programming. They were able to tour the building, meet some of the high school teachers, and have a chance to orient themselves just a little bit to high school life in addition to getting math support. At the middle school, we ran it a little bit differently, and we provided virtual support for students needing math help, needing help with their summer math packets, and help with things like Khan Academy that families wanted additional support with. So that really covers what we did academically. We also expanded our music offerings. So one of the things that we did was to subsidize students participating in the beginning band program. And that meant for this year, we had the biggest beginning band program in a number of years. We had 69 students participate, which is just a great number to have. And in addition, we ran a completely new summer program in music that Tyler Boyle and Chris Riley-Facina put together. They were very anxious to get the kids back singing after a year where masks and social distancing made that difficult. And they ran a summer program that incorporated singing, rhythm activities, and ukulele instruction. So we have brand new ukuleles at the elementary schools, and the students were able to benefit from that. That's it.
Your update?
That's my update.
Thank you so much. You know, Dr. McGurk, I appreciate you reporting out and explaining all that, because I know in our F&O committee, through like the May, June, July months, I believe, that's really where we were talking about it. You know, the money came through American Recovery Act, and it was really, I think it was for 4 different areas, and one was learning recovery, one was enrichment, and the other 2 were...
With all of the grants, there was a mandatory use of a portion of the funds. It was different each grant, but it had to be used for learning recovery or learning loss. And I can give you specifics after about what each one was. But in those discussions about the grant, we looked at prioritizing where the need was. And one of it was to fill the gap of the learning as well as the socialization. And so the summer program that we put together did both, extending the learning portion, but then extending it to camp in the afternoon for the social portion, as well as the informal learning, so.
Well, thank you. It sounds like such a great report. It sounds like the students really had wonderful opportunities. It was great being on the planning end and now hearing, you know, about the opportunities that they had, and, you know, trying to provide as many opportunities for our students as possible, especially after the past year and a half. Anyone on the board like to comment or have any questions for Dr. McGurk? Yes.
I'll just echo, it's great to see the use of the ESSER funds and those other grant monies going in such a diverse way. It's, you know, it's a creative look at things, as we talked about for the past 6 months or 8 months about these programs. It's more than just, okay, let's do enrichment to teach the kids more that they lost. We're doing it in different ways, which, you know, I've long been an advocate of beyond just the classroom stuff, right? The stuff outside, the music and singing, that's fantastic. So, thank you.
And thank you to all the faculty who put this together and made this happen, because it was throughout everyone's summer, so that was great. Thank you. Now, would you like to talk about this summer curriculum work?
So for our summer curriculum work, just to explain the process a little bit for people that are new to the board or growing in their understanding of this, we have a process every year where we send out a Google form for summer curriculum work proposals to all of our staff members pre-K to 12. This year, we received 56 proposals across elementary, middle, high school, special services, and our K-12 departments, which include art, music, and PE. Those proposals are reviewed by department supervisors, by principals when appropriate, and by the district curriculum supervisors who advance selected projects for approval. Over the course of this summer, teachers completed approximately 1,500 hours of summer curriculum work, and I decided not to read off the list of all 56 projects for you, but just to give you a sampling of some of the kinds of things teachers worked on. They worked on strategies and materials to support sight word development. They did math assessments at the elementary school. They worked on ruler lessons, fact fluency, and technology integration, among other projects at the elementary level. At the middle school, they worked to replace human systems labs. The STEAM teachers worked on Minecraft and aquaponics, which is brand new, and you'll have to get over to Maggie and see the fish. They worked on research and media literacy, and they developed support for summer math programming. In the high school, they conducted projects such as adjusting pacing related to changes in AP courses. They had some courses like French 1 that were running for the first time in several years, and the curriculum and materials needed to be updated. They revamped the Geometry with Statistics course to better prepare for the content standards on the SAT. They developed new curriculum for a Spanish language and culture course and for the computer science discovery course. They worked on restructuring capstone. We worked on the developmental guidance curriculum related to the new school counseling framework, and teachers worked on advisory programming at the high school. In special services, teachers worked on tech integration for learning center science courses. They worked on developing social studies and science curriculum for the McGee Blast program, and speech and language pathologists and social workers worked to further develop the social skills curriculum. So when you look at the breadth and depth of those projects, you can see that summer curriculum projects cover everything from our preschool and early childhood classes to our advanced AP classes. We take a broad definition of what curriculum work means in the summer, so the development of new assessments as well as investigating new curriculum and new materials is an important part of that. That's it.
Anyone have any questions? Well, I know that the summer curriculum work happens every year, and it's a necessary component to drive our school district forward. And I know that we talked about this at the last meeting, Dr. McGurk, but can you just speak to, as a result of the Social Justice and Equity Committee, just to be clear, was any of the curriculum changed over the summer?
We did make some changes that were continuations of work that we had done previously.
Right.
But there were no new courses that came as a direct result of that committee. There were no new textbooks adopted. There were no significant changes based on the result of that work.
Right, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to be clear of that because I know a lot of people are listening to the meetings and there's been a lot of questions, so I just don't want there to be any confusion. So thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you for the report. I really appreciate it. I know the board does, and I know that the curriculum is a lot of work to get done, and it's, is very important that we do that. So thank you. Right, and now we will turn it back over to Linda for the Central Connecticut Transition Academy.
It was about 8 years ago, I think, 8+ years ago, that I had a vision to have the Transition Academy move out of the high school and off-site. And that was made possible because of the support of the Board of Ed. And then while we were doing that, I also wanted to look at how we can partner with another town for a couple reasons. It's not just a financial reason, it's also so that our students who've been together for probably since kindergarten can broaden their social circles and develop relationships with other students from other towns. So finally, we've come to the point where we're happy to announce that we are in a true partnership with Cromwell Public Schools and Berlin Public Schools. This partnership will provide services to our students from age 18 to 22 in both communities. The Berlin Transition Academy is now called the Central Connecticut Transition Academy, and we continue to run the program out of the YMCA building on Main Street. And I just shared with you that many of our students have been with one another since preschool or kindergarten. So now they can really work together to foster new relationships and hopefully continue these relationships until adulthood. When we first moved to the Y about 6 years ago, we started our program with 4 students. Last year we had 10 students. This year we have 20 students. So our program continues to grow. It's the goal both of Berlin and Cromwell to continue to grow the program by offering tuition spots to surrounding towns, so that we can continue to bring different students in from different communities. Our open house for the families and students will be held on Wednesday, September 22nd at 6:30. And we always invite you to come down and see this program. It's a nice program to go in because the students don't have to worry about academics anymore. They're just working on their life skills. They're working on independent living skills. They're working on employment skills, on career opportunities. Some students are enrolled in some college classes. And it's just it's an exciting adventure now that we can merge together with Cromwell. And again, thank you to the board. This would never been able to happen without the continued support of the board and the superintendents.
It's very exciting to see how much this program has grown over the past 6 years. I've been on the board, and I know that it takes a lot of work from all of you guys that you put into it, so thank you. Does anyone else on the board have anything they would like to add, ask, contribute?
I just would like to say I think it's very exciting that you were able to, well, collectively you, were able to see this dream come to fruition. Through the efforts of many, I'm sure, but it does certainly provide greater opportunities for all those involved, and I look forward to seeing it grow even more.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you for that update. Okay, so moving on to, we are adopting a new policy this evening. And I know at the last meeting, we elaborated a little bit more on it. So we have a policy review and a second reading and adoption for policy 3324.1, Code of Conduct Governing Procurements under a Federal Award. Any discussion around this? Yes.
I'll start with a motion.
Okay.
I'll move that the board adopt new policy 3324.1, Code of Conduct Governing Procurements under a Federal Award, and revised policy 3323, Purchasing, as presented.
Do we have a second? So motion by Tim, second by Carrie. Now, do we have any discussion around this new policy that we are adopting? Okay. Yep.
So we talked a little bit at the last meeting about these policies. These are, as it says, a revised policy to purchasing, which we already had, but factors from the government have been introduced in that, as well as the new policy that are there to address all of the federal grants and awards and stipends and everything else that we've been getting, and all the communities around are dealing with this. So it's not anything unique to Berlin, but I think it is a good step forward to make sure that we are handling this appropriately and properly and in full visibility with the community and everybody else who is going to be looking at how we're spending this money. So I think they're very appropriate for what we're in the middle of right now.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Now we are moving on to item F, the report on Equity and Social Justice Committee. So at the last meeting, I had requested that Superintendent Benigni look at the committee structure, effectiveness, positives and negatives that have come out of the meetings, and determine a way to ensure transparency and report back to the board this meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Benigni and Dr. McGurk to report back to the board.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to take a look at the committee. I do appreciate the comments, and I do realize that there needs to be greater clarity. So I hope that tonight I'll be able to give you some of that clarity and go reviewing the structure. But first, I want to start off with that the committee has always been advisory in nature. I think initially there was some confusion in whether the committee was a Board of Ed committee or a committee outside of the board. We did seek clarity on that, and it definitely is a board committee. We know that moving forward, and we recognize that because it is a board committee, whether board members are active part in the committee or only a few board members, it still falls under a board committee, which means that it will follow all guidelines of open meetings. Agendas will be posted, and meetings are open to the public. Just to reiterate, when we first formed the committee was open to all those that were interested. So anyone that wished to join the committee was able to join the committee. There was not like they were selected from a group. Anyone that was interested was able to join, as it will be moving forward. If meetings are held virtually moving forward, a link to the meeting will be posted, and the agenda will be posted as any board subcommittee is posted, which is posted with the town and posted at the meeting venue and posted online. So moving forward, that's what will be occurring as far as the meeting structure and how the meetings will be run, and the ability that the meetings are viewed by the public in an open setting. We'll definitely follow that moving forward. The full committee, looking at it moving forward, realizing the work in a full committee of over 60 people, which may grow at this point, we'll meet quarterly as a full committee. Meetings will include opportunity for new learning, for an example, an article, a TED Talk, some type of discussion, but I want to stop on that for a moment. Some of the critique of the previous committee was the consultant we were working with. We are not working with that consultant moving forward. And there was definitely a feeling that much of the discussion was targeted towards a certain area and that it wasn't as open as it could be or inclusive. I'm here to say that we're going to ensure that everyone has a feeling of welcome to the committee and feeling it's a safe place to share regardless of where your point of view is. The idea is new learning by the committee to share to the greater community. If we can't have members of the community feeling it's a safe place, I don't know how we're going to share that further with the greater community. So that is definitely a position that we're going to ensure takes place moving forward. All subcommittees will report on their progress. So the thought is that we have these quarterly meetings, and within these meetings, the subcommittees are doing work. They report back to the group. There's feedback in that large group setting. The subcommittees report out, and there's oversight of those subcommittees by myself, the assistant superintendent, and the chairs. We have the chairs. I'm going to ask Aaron to speak in a moment, but the chairs are listed out under each of the subcommittees, and we also noted what their position is. They're parents, administrators, teachers, various people that are the chairs at this moment. Doesn't mean that those won't change. And there's goals for each committee and some of the work that the committee would be working towards. I'm going to ask Aaron to talk about each committee, and then I'll come back and talk about the goals at the end.
Thank you, Brian. So this document is in your Schoology folder as well as being displayed here for your review. Our expectation in moving forward and the way that we envision continuing this work is to keep in place the subcommittees that we started in April of this school year. Those committees were just getting started. They've only had a couple of meetings, and their work has essentially been on hold while this issue is resolved around how the committee is moving forward. We expect to continue to work with the subcommittees, but we want to clarify to the board and to people who may have questions in the public the way in which the committees will work and how oversight will be provided to the committees. The Parent, Family, and Community Outreach Committee will work in conjunction with the Board of Ed Communications Committee. This is a direct suggestion that came up at one of the recent board meetings about why there would be a Parent Outreach Committee and a Communications Committee. We think that they need to work in collaboration so that if the Outreach Committee, for example, wants to bring in a speaker or sponsor a parent forum, that we're doing that in a united way with the Communications Committee, and the Communications Committee is lending their support behind the work that's being done. For the curriculum audit and the anti-bias, anti-racist efforts with students, I want to reiterate the idea that significant changes to the curriculum are reviewed by the Board of Education Curriculum Committee prior to implementation. The Board of Ed Curriculum Committee will continue to approve new courses and new textbooks, as has been past practice. And agendas for the Board of Ed Curriculum Committee are published and meetings are open to the public. Our district curriculum documents continue to be accessible to the public through a link on the district website. And in addition, we plan to post a report on the district website showing which curriculum documents from the previous year have been modified. And that's specifically to address the concern that changes were being made without oversight or without approval. For the Professional Learning Committee, we expect the chairs of that committee to continue to work with their committee to identify opportunities for professional learning for our staff, including our non-certified staff, and to bring those proposals forward for review and approval by the Administrative Council, which includes the Superintendent of Schools. The same sort of concept.
Go ahead here. I'm sorry. We're off on the slide. That's all.
The same concept would be true for the recruitment and retention of a diverse workforce. This committee has a goal of increasing the diversity of certified and non-certified staff and to identify ways to proactively support retention of staff, as you heard a community member speak to tonight. And again, they would make proposals for any changes in our process, either in advertising, in our hiring process, or the ways that we do advertise for positions or try to bring people in through our administrative structure. And the final area, the school culture and student opportunities, again, the proposals would be reviewed and approved by the Administrative Council, which includes the Superintendent of Schools. We hope that the clarity of this proposal helps to give confidence to the board that there is sufficient oversight and that there is a plan in place to make sure that the committees stay in their intended role of being advisory and that the work that they do is supported moving forward.
Thank you, Erin. I think it's important to note in all of the subcommittees the oversight of each subcommittee. And as far as when a proposal is reviewed and approved by Administrative Council would mean all the administrators in the district and myself, which we meet bi-weekly. So if there were things that we were overseeing, they would go through Administrative Council. If there's a need for it to go through the board or through the subcommittees, then we could definitely do so also. The other portion I think it's important to note is that with the trainings, there was a question of what trainings go on with the students, what trainings go on with the staff. We have no problem posting those trainings for the public to see. We could post those on the website. As it was shared at the last meeting, many of these trainings have been going on for years. They may not have fallen under the umbrella of the District Equity and Social Justice Committee, but we work with the Anti-Defamation League for years, and so on. And some of the work that we did with the Habits of Mind would also cross-reference with some of the district equity work. So I think it's important to note that the work has been going on. As far as the transparency, I think the curriculum has been posted on the website, a good portion of it, meaning you may not get as far in as a teacher can get, but you can see all of the curriculum. That curriculum has been posted, I believe, for over 10 years, and it's accessible under Rubicon, Atlas Rubicon on the district website. So some thoughts for the goals to the board, and obviously these goals could change, but for discussion. One of them is develop a district equity statement. The process to be determined by the Board of Education. We thought that would be a good goal for the 21-22 school year. Each subcommittee would develop 3 to 5 action steps to be reviewed by the Board of Education in December 2021 at that meeting. If that was a direction you'd like the subcommittees to go that we just described. Each subcommittee will prepare and present a brief report on their work and recommendations for future actions. We thought that with the June meeting being very packed already, that we would wait till September and have the subcommittees report to the board and actually do a presentation of what was accomplished in the 21-22 school year, and then to begin to set goals for the following year if needed. So that was kind of you asked for a little review and adjustments to the committee. Those are our thoughts. Obviously, if you'd like further review or recommendations, we're open to any comments at this point, or we'd go back and make some more further adjustments.
Thank you for the report. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to the board members. Do you guys have anything you'd like to ask or add?
So thank you. I think that helps to provide some clarity in terms of how you are thinking about moving forward. One question I have is, are those subcommittees already populated, or how will they be populated?
The subcommittees were populated this year, and the chairs that you see were the chairs for this year. Moving forward, we did not decide if they'll be the chairs or not. The thought was we only had limited meetings last year, and we haven't over the summer had any meetings since we last ended the school year. So the thought was that if those chairs were in place, that they would remain. It doesn't mean that they can't change. We're open to looking at that. But the thought is that those committees, that committee structure would stay. And if additional people join the committee, they would be added to those various subcommittees.
So are people self-selecting what subcommittees they'd like to serve on, or are they being identified by others to serve on those committees, subcommittees?
They were self-selected.
Is that how it would move forward?
Moving forward, would you let them I mean, we didn't get as far as discussion.
Okay.
I don't think we can have, 40 on one and only 5 on the other. So I think there will be some interest,
exactly.
but we may do you have interest in the top 3, and then we look at where it's needed also.
Is there a date set for the first quarterly meeting yet?
We have not, to the best of my knowledge, we've not set a date yet. We really wanted to get the board's approval that that this structure works, and that we've made some changes that will hopefully allow us to move forward in a positive direction.
Well, thank you for putting this together. I know over the past month, the both of you spent a significant amount of time really going through this and trying to, keep intact some of the work that was already done. I will say it has been made abundantly clear that, though we've heard from people who don't particularly support the work, we've also heard from a significant amount of stakeholders within the community, especially teachers and students who really do. And I think it's very important that we, provide this space for this work to continue. And I know that there's a lot of people really passionate about it, and it can look different in so many different ways. And I think right now as a Board of Education, us as board members, Dr. McGurk and Superintendent Benigni, as well as everyone else involved, is really finding what's right and best for our community, and it's going to look different everywhere. I think with social justice, equity, any of these topics right now in society, we're facing different times that none of us have ever really gone through. Well, I know for me in my time alive, I haven't. And, we can agree, we can disagree, but at the end of the day, what are we doing for the kids? And, we need to make sure that we are providing an equitable learning environment, whatever that means. And I think by doing this work, we're going to develop our equity statement and we can move forward. So thank you for that. And I have 2 questions. So I know that when you were presenting, you said that this was put out to everyone. In one of our conversations, I learned that it actually was. Can you speak to how it was put out initially? Because I didn't even know this until we spoke. Yeah.
Dr. McGurk was point on it, but I know it was posted to the best of our ability to invite people, but I can share with how those invitations came and how the contact went, so if you want to share, that'd be great.
Sure. We sent out a direct email solicitation to all members of the staff, so all of our staff members were invited. We also sent out a message to the community of parents through our school messenger system, and we used one of the Berlin Board of Education citizen columns to provide information about how people could join the committee. And we did have people who are not parents but interested community members join through that post.
So, yeah, I think it's important to note that it was in the Citizen, and it did reach a greater good. And then the last question I have, and then I'll see if the board has any other questions, because I know this is one of those things that the more we think about it, the more questions come up. So Superintendent Benigni, I know in our last meeting, I had asked you, did the curriculum change as a result of the Social Justice and Equity Committee, and you said it didn't. And then tonight when I asked Dr. McGurk, it was, well, kind of, not really, no major changes. Can we just clarify that? Because I just do not want any misconceptions right now, and I just want to be clear and transparent. And if there were changes, what those were.
Aaron, I'm going to ask you to speak to it directly more to that. The curriculum work is, so as far as textbook adoption or anything of that nature, no. Did staff members work in the summer on just equity and social justice as such? Not to my knowledge as such in isolation. So to answer your question, were there changes directly from the Equity and Social Justice Committee? No, nothing came to my knowledge, unless I'm wrong, nothing came from the committee to say this is what has to change in the curriculum and this change should be noted. The Equity and Social Justice Committee said make this change. To say that we're not always working on social skills and we're not working on kindness for others, all those things that we do with habits of the mind, some of the presentations that were in front of the board, those things do overlap with equity and social justice for all. So to say that there may not have been some of that in the curriculum, I don't want to say that it's not, that there wasn't any of that done or people didn't work on social skills and things of that nature that could overlap. And Aaron, if you could be more explicit about things that may overlap, I'd rather have you share that this evening.
Sure. Julia, the reason that I hesitated a minute when you asked me was because there were no changes, as I said, directly from the subcommittees that started to work this spring. The subcommittees are all advisory in nature. Even if they made recommendations, it still has to go through the curriculum change process. The reason that I hesitated for a moment was we have had 3 years of equity work happening in the district, which has included having teachers do things like work on identity. You remember a couple of years ago, we had the students from Willard that came with their identity maps when they were talking about, I'm a soccer player and a violin player, and I speak Spanish, and I like to travel with my family, and the other kids that had different identity maps, and they were learning to find things that were unique about themselves and things that were in common. So I hesitated because some of that work that started 3 years ago continues and continues to have an influence on work that we're doing in the school. What I did not mean was that there was something that anyone on the Equity or Social Justice Committee directed and said needed to be a change in our curriculum, because that did not happen.
I appreciate that. No, and I remember when the students came, and that was wonderful. It was such a nice thing to see them do that, and yeah, I just want to be crystal clear, especially that, this is available on YouTube. People can go back, watch it, and then the questions tend to come after the fact. So I want to make sure that we are being transparent and straightforward, and if there is anything, we can address it now.
Well, let me just go a step further. Over a year ago, the Board of Education had postings on the internet that there were pieces in the curriculum that were biased, culturally biased, and were offensive. We definitely did review the curriculum at an administrative level to make sure that those accusations were not in the curriculum. And I can tell you as I stand here tonight, those pieces that were said are not in the curriculum and weren't in the curriculum when we were accused that they were in the curriculum. They may have been in years ago, but they were not in the current curriculum. So I think when you're asking have changes been made, that is something that we took action on and immediately looked into the curriculum to ensure that that wasn't part of our curriculum.
Well, and I think it's important you brought that up, and I think it's important that we go back to that, because that was really a big thing that affected us as a board and the greater good of the community, because whereas people are talking about us suddenly adding in critical race theory as a result of this committee, which hasn't happened, a year ago we were being accused that we were a racist school district, and for the amount of people we heard about critical race theory, it was 10 times more we were getting emails that we were racist. So it is important that there are those checks and balances, and that curriculum is being reviewed. And that was a really stressful time. I would say, as a board member, it was probably equally as stressful as this, if not more. So thank you for bringing that up. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add? Questions?
I guess this isn't so much a question as encouragement to ensure that folks, this creates a safe space for people to express diversity in opinion and share diverse perspectives, because, I think that's where folks have kind of raised their voices, is in feeling as though they may have been silenced or that their perspectives weren't represented in some of the work. And whether or not that is factual, I feel it's important that people are invited into a space that is safe to share and exchange ideas and come to some common ground, right, and shared understanding. So I hope that we can create pathways for different voices and ideas to be shared and examined within this work.
I said it earlier, but I think that point that you bring up is that if members of the committee can't have this safe space, because the whole notion of the committee is to move it forward to the greater community of Berlin. So if those people that devote their time and energy to the task can't have the safe space and feel part of the community of practice, right, then how is it going to be shared beyond that? So I think you bring up a very relevant point. And we both recognize, and I think the greater committee recognizes that that needs to be a priority. So thank you.
Do any other board members have anything they would like to share? Because I think before we wrap up this meeting and move forward, if there's any, major issues that anyone has, like we speak up now, before we move on to our next meeting and move forward with this. Well, thank you so much for putting the time and effort into this. I know it's been a lot of work going through and restructuring and coming up with everything to report back, but I think the clarity will be very, very helpful moving forward. So thank you. All right, so this evening we will not be going into executive session, is that correct?
No, the contract is not ready. Our attorneys don't have it ready yet.
Okay, so we have one last item on the agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Mark. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It carries 6-0. Thank you.